The city finally signed off on my bridge project at 4:17 on a gray Thursday afternoon. And for the first time in 18 months, I leaned back in my office chair and let myself breathe. Downtown Denver had been arguing over that structure for nearly a year and a half. Budgets, permits, design revisions, environmental reviews. The usual parade of delays that made progress feel personal. But that afternoon, it was done, approved, funded, moving forward. I should have gone out with my team. They were already talking about whiskey at the place across from the office, loud enough for me to hear through the glass wall. Instead, I shut my laptop, loosened my tie, and thought about Melissa. 12 years of marriage teaches you the shape of someone's routines. Melissa liked celebrations to feel unplanned, even when they clearly weren't. She liked candles on the table, red wine she pretended was too dry before finishing the glass, and the mushroom ravioli at that little French bistro on Larimer that she insisted wasn't overpriced because atmosphere counts. I could already picture the way she'd smile when I walked in with takeout and good news. My life, from the outside, probably looked engineered the same way I built bridges, measured, reinforced, stable. I was 39, a senior civil engineer, respected enough that younger guys in the firm started calling me before they called their own managers. Melissa ran a boutique design studio with exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, and the kind of clients who used phrases like visual identity and texture minimalism with straight faces. We had a clean house in Wash Park, a shared calendar, matching carry-on luggage, and the sort of marriage people described as solid. I used to believe that word meant safe. On the drive over, Denver was all cold light and traffic glare. I picked up dinner from the bistro myself, told him to pack the tiramisu, and asked for an extra paper bag because I didn't want the containers shifting on the passenger seat. It felt good, carrying that warm food out into the evening like I was bringing home proof that something in life had gone exactly right. Melissa's studio was still lit when I got there. Through the front windows, I could see one of her interns moving samples from one table to another. The place smelled faintly like paint, coffee, and printer ink when I stepped inside. Her assistant, Jenna, looked up from the reception desk and smiled at first. "Ethan, you're early." "I'm surprising her," I said, lifting the takeout bag a little. "Big day." That smile disappeared so quickly it made me notice it. "Oh," she said. Melissa left. I glanced toward the back offices. Left? I thought she had client reviews tonight. She canceled the last one. Jenna tucked a piece of hair behind her ear, suddenly interested in a stack of invoices beside her keyboard. She said a business contact wanted to meet across town. It sounded important. Something in my chest tightened, not sharply, just enough to register. Across town where? I asked. Jenna hesitated a beat too long. She didn't say. I stood there with warm food in my hand and the smell of garlic and butter rising out of the bag. And for the first time that day, the ground under me didn't feel quite as steady as I thought it was. I thanked Jenna like she had told me something ordinary, then walked back out into the evening with the takeout, still warm in my hand. I did not call Melissa. I did not text her. 12 years with someone gives you instincts long before it gives you proof, and mine had already started arranging the facts into a shape I did not want to look at. A business contact across town. Melissa hated vague explanations. She was the kind of person who corrected restaurant reservations if they used the wrong punctuation in her last name. If she had wanted me to know where she was, I would have known. I stood beside my truck for a few seconds, watching my reflection blur in the dark window. Then I remember a name I had heard twice in the last month. Gavin Reed, local developer, smooth public image, expensive watch. The kind of man who smiled with all his teeth and treated every conversation like a negotiation. Melissa had mentioned him the way people mention someone they are trying very hard to mention casually. The rooftop wine bar on Blake was one of his regular places. I had only been there once, for a client dinner 2 years earlier. Enough to remember the view, the steel railings, the low amber lights, and the fact that people went there to be seen. By the time I parked a block away, the temperature had dropped. Denver nights do that without warning. I carried the paper bag up the elevator, one hand steady on a folded receipt stapled to the side, as if I were still just a husband arriving late to his own celebration. The doors opened to soft jazz, glassware, and the low hum of money. Then I saw her. Melissa was seated near the far edge of the roof. City lights behind her, a dark green dress under a camel coat she had not worn for me in months. Gavin Reed sat across from her, jacket open, leaning in like he had all the time in the world. He said something I couldn't hear and she laughed. Not polite laughter, not business laughter, but the smaller, warmer kind that belongs to private things. Then he touched her wrist. That should have been enough. It wasn't. Melissa let her hand stay there. Not startled, not offended, comfortable, familiar. The space between them looked practiced, intimate in the worst possible way, because it wasn't reckless. It was easy. I walked to their table before either of them noticed me. Melissa looked up first. The color drained from her face, so fast it almost seemed theatrical. Gavin straightened, confused for half a second, then cautious when he saw who I was. I set the takeout bag carefully on the table between their wine glasses. The scent of roasted garlic and butter slipped into the cold air. Under it, I placed a note I had written in the truck downstairs on the back of the bistro receipt. Enjoy your new life. Melissa said my name once. Just once. Quietly, I looked at her, then at him, then turned around and walked back to the elevator without another word. I expected the house to be empty. That was the first mistake. The porch light was on when I pulled into the driveway, casting that soft yellow glow Melissa always insisted made the place feel welcoming. For a moment, I just sat in the truck with the engine off, listening to it tick as it cooled down, staring at that light like it belonged to someone else. I walked in without rushing. No hesitation, no noise. The same way I had walked into this house every day for years. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, calm, standing by the counter like she had been there the whole time, as if nothing had shifted, as if I hadn't just seen her across a table with another man's hand on her skin. She had changed out of the dress. Now it was one of her oversized sweaters, sleeves pulled halfway over her hands, hair tied back loosely. Normal. Too normal. "You're back," she said, like I had just come home from work. I set my keys down in their usual place. "So are you." There was a pause. Not long. Just enough for both of us to recognize that whatever we said next would define everything after it. She moved first, reaching for a glass, filling it with water she didn't drink. "Ethan, what you saw tonight was clear," I said. My voice didn't rise. That seemed to throw her off more than anything else. "It's not what you think," she said quickly, then corrected herself. "It's complicated." I leaned against the counter across from her, watching her carefully. 12 years teaches you patterns. And right now, she was searching, testing which version of the truth she could sell, then explain it. I said. She exhaled slowly, like she was preparing a presentation. "Gavin and I have been working together for months. There's a development project, branding, investors. Things overlapped. It got personal, but it's not serious. It doesn't mean anything." The words were clean, practiced, designed to reduce impact. "It didn't look meaningless," I said. Her jaw tightened slightly. "You're reading too much into a moment." A moment. I let that sit there between us. "And leaving your studio early," I added. "Canceling clients. Lying about where you were." Her eyes flickered. Small, but there. "I didn't lie," she said. "I just didn't give you every detail." I nodded once, slow. "Right." That was when the shift happened. Excuses weren't working, so she changed direction. "You've been distant for months," she said, tone sharpening. "Always working. Always tired." Everything became predictable, Ethan, structured, safe, like I was just part of your routine. There it was, blame neatly packaged. I didn't interrupt. She stepped closer, voice lower now. I needed something different, something that wasn't just stability. I looked at her for a long moment, at the woman I had built a life with, at the way she said stability, like it was a flaw. Then she said it. "I stayed because it was easier," she added, almost under her breath. "Because your life works. Because you make things simple. Not love, not loyalty. Convenience." Something quiet settled inside me then. Not anger. Not even hurt in the way I expected. Clarity. 12 years reduced to a function. I straightened slightly, picked up my keys again, then set them back down in the exact same spot. "All right," I said, and for the first time since I walked in, she looked uncertain. She was waiting for something. An argument. A reaction. Maybe even relief that the truth was finally out, and we could work through it like adults who still believed in repair. I didn't give her any of that. "Pack a bag," I said. She blinked. "What?" "Just what you need for a few days. Clothes, essentials." My voice stayed level. "Be out by sunrise." For a second, she didn't move, like her brain rejected the instruction. "You're not serious." "I am." She let out a short laugh, the kind people use when they think control is slipping but hasn't yet. "Ethan, you don't get to just throw me out of my own house." I didn't correct her tone. I corrected the fact. "It's my house," I said, "and I'm not throwing you out. I'm giving you time to leave." Her expression changed then. Not dramatic, just a fracture. "You're overreacting," she said, sharper now. "This isn't something you just end overnight." I looked at her, really looked this time, without the filter of 12 years trying to preserve something that wasn't there anymore. "It didn't happen overnight," I said quietly. "We're just at the part where it shows." That stopped her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The kitchen felt different now. Same cabinets, same marble counters, same soft light, but none of it belonged to what we were anymore. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked finally. "That's not my problem tonight." There was anger in her eyes now. Real anger. Not defensive, not calculated. "You're unbelievable," she said. "After everything." I turned away before she could finish. Not out of disrespect. Out of precision. I didn't need to hear the rest of the sentence. I already understood. "I'll be in the workshop," I said. I walked past her, down the short hallway, and into the one place in the house that had always been mine. The workshop smelled like wood, steel, and dust. Half-finished scale models sat on the long table. Bridges, load tests, structural mock-ups I had built over the years. Some successful, some not. Each one a problem I had studied, understood, and solved. I sat down on the stool and didn't turn on the overhead light. In the dark, the outlines of those models were still visible. Clean lines, measured stress points, designed to hold. My marriage had looked like that from the outside. But no structure fails without warning. There are always signs, small fractures, shifts in weight, materials under strain long before collapse. I just hadn't inspected closely enough. Or maybe I had, and chose to call it normal wear. Upstairs, I could hear movement. Closets opening. Drawers sliding. A suitcase while hitting the floor. No shouting. No crying. Just quiet dismantling. Hours passed like that. I didn't sleep. I didn't check my phone. I just sat there, staring at the models, replaying the last year in reverse. Conversations, late nights, small inconsistencies that didn't seem worth questioning at the time. Now they aligned perfectly. By the time the first gray light of morning slipped through the small window, I had already made the decision. Not emotional. Structural. If something fails, you don't argue with it. You expose the weakness. You document it. And then you rebuild so it doesn't happen again. At 6:12 a.m., I heard the front door close. I didn't go upstairs to check. I already knew. By 9:30 a.m., I was back in my office like nothing had happened. Same desk, same monitors, same skyline through the glass. People walked past, talking about deadlines, approvals, weekend plans. Normal life continued with precision, the way it always does when something personal collapses. Completely indifferent to it. I answered emails first. Project updates. Budget confirmations. A short message from the city about the bridge timeline moving forward. I replied to everything with the same tone I always used. Clear, efficient, controlled. No one asked if anything was wrong. I didn't give them a reason to. Around 11:15, my assistant knocked once and stepped in. "There's a courier here for you." "I'm not expecting anything." He said, "It's urgent." I nodded. "Send him in." The courier was forgettable. Mid-30s, neutral expression, holding a plain manila envelope with no markings. No logo. No return address. He didn't ask for a signature. "Ethan Carter?" he said. I took the envelope. "Yeah." He nodded once and left. That was it. No explanation. I closed the door behind him and stood there for a second, weighing the envelope in my hand. It wasn't thick. Maybe 20, 30 pages at most. Slightly uneven inside, like it held more than just paper. I sat down slowly and opened it. Photographs slid out first. Glossy. Printed. Not random. Melissa getting into a car I didn't recognize. Melissa walking into a hotel lobby. Melissa on that same rooftop. Different night. Different dress. Laughing. Her head tilted back. Gavin Reed standing too close behind her. I flipped to the next set. Parking receipts. Dates. Times. Locations. A pattern. Regular. Structured. This wasn't recent. This was consistent. Then came printed messages. Screenshots. Conversations between Melissa and Gavin. Not vague. Not careful. Direct. Same place tonight? Miss you already? Don't worry. He has no idea. I stopped there for a moment, staring at that line longer than the others. Not because it hurt, because it confirmed something I had already started to understand. This wasn't a mistake. It was a system. I kept going. More messages. More receipts. More alignment between dates and times. A timeline forming itself without effort. Nearly a year. Not months. A year. I placed everything back on the desk in neat rows without thinking. Photos on one side. Receipts in the center. Messages aligned by date. Order made easier to see. At 11:42, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring twice before answering. Ethan Carter. A pause. Then a voice. Calm. Mail. You got the envelope. I did. Another pause. Measuring. My name is Noah Pierce, he said. I used to work for Gavin Reed. Used to. I leaned back slightly. Why are you sending me this? Because you deserve to know what's actually been going on, he said. No hesitation. No emotion. And because I got fired for finding it. I didn't interrupt. The affair didn't start a few months ago, he continued. It's been close to a year. Maybe a little more. It stopped being hidden a long time ago. Just controlled. Controlled. That word fit too well. And you're telling me this now because... I asked, because Gavin's sloppy when he thinks he's untouchable, Noah said. And your wife helped him stay that way. I looked down at the evidence spread across my desk. Perfectly arranged. Clear. Unarguable. What else? I asked. There was a slight shift in his tone. Not hesitation. Something heavier. You're not dealing with just an affair, Ethan, he said. I didn't respond. Then he said it, and it's about to get worse. I didn't speak for a few seconds after he said that. People use that phrase, it's about to get worse, like a warning. Most of the time, it's exaggerated, emotional, designed to prepare you for something uncomfortable. This wasn't that. I could hear it in his voice. What else? I asked. Noah exhaled slowly, like he had already decided how much he was willing to say. Gavin isn't just seeing your wife, he said. He's engaged. That landed clean. Not sharp, not loud, just precise. To who? I asked. Dr. Rachel Monroe. Pediatric surgeon. Good reputation. Clean background. The kind of person investors like being associated with. Of course. I leaned forward slightly, resting my elbows on the desk, eyes still on the timeline I had built from the envelope. So he's juggling both. I said, no. Noah corrected. He's using both. That made me look up. There's a difference, he continued. Your wife isn't just involved. She's part of what he's doing. I didn't interrupt. He's been setting up a development project. Noah said, luxury property, high-end branding, big promises. He's been pulling in investors quietly for months. That's normal, I said. Developers do that. Not like this. Noah replied. The numbers don't line up. The projections are inflated. Some of the early funds don't exist where they're supposed to. I didn't move. And Melissa? I asked. Another pause. She's been helping him manage the image. Noah said. Presentations. Branding. Introductions to certain clients. But that's not the main part. I already knew there was more. She moved money, he added. That was the first thing that actually shifted something inside me. From where? Joint account, he said. Not all at once. Small amounts. Spread out. Enough that it wouldn't trigger anything immediate. I thought about our finances automatically. The accounts. The transfers I had signed off on, without questioning, because they looked normal. How much? I asked. I don't have the exact total, Noah said, but it's not small. I leaned back again, slower this time. Affair. Deception. Now financial movement. This wasn't emotional. It was calculated. And the plan. I asked. Noah didn't hesitate. He billed the project. Gains investor confidence. Announces a major launch. He paused, then disappears. With the money? Yes. I looked back down at the photos of Melissa. Different nights. Different locations. Same expression. Comfortable. Certain. And she knows? I asked. She knows enough, he said. Enough to be involved. Enough to benefit. Silence settled between us for a moment. Then I asked the only thing that mattered now. Why are you telling me all this? This time, Noah didn't answer immediately. Because I tried to stop it, he said finally, and I got removed for it. A beat. And because you're the only variable he didn't account for. I let that sit. Then I looked at the evidence again. The timeline wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was a structure, a system, and like any system, it had weak points. Send me everything else you have, I said. I will. The call ended. I didn't move for a full minute. Then I reached for my laptop, opened a new folder, and named it the same thing I had used years ago on failed structural models. Inspection. Because this wasn't about anger anymore. It was about understanding exactly where everything was going to break. I got home before sunset. The house felt different, without her things scattered across it. Too clean, too quiet, like a model home, perfect on the surface, empty underneath. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't check my phone. I went straight to the dining room. By 8:40 p.m., the table was covered. Not randomly, not emotionally, precisely. On the left side, I laid out the phone records. Timestamps aligned, calls highlighted, patterns marked in pen. Late nights, repeated numbers. Gaps that matched the dates from the envelope. In the center, I placed the financials. Printed statements. Transfers circled. Amounts small enough to avoid attention individually, but undeniable when arranged together. A slow leak. On the right, the photos. Chronological. Different outfits. Different locations. Same man. Same expression. At the head of the table, I placed the messages. Cleanly printed. No commentary. No emotion. Just their words in order, building a narrative neither of them could deny. By the time I finished, the entire surface told a single story. Not chaos. Design. At 9:17, I heard the front door open. Keys. Hesitation. Then footsteps. She didn't call out. She walked in slowly, like she already sensed something had changed beyond repair. When she stepped into the dining room, she stopped. Completely. Her eyes moved across the table, piece by piece, left to right. Records. Transfers. Photos. Messages. Recognition came fast. Then fear. What is this? She asked, but her voice didn't match the question. She already knew. Timeline, I said. She took a step forward, shaking her head slightly. Where did you get this? That part doesn't matter. Her breathing changed. Faster now. You went through my things? She snapped, trying to grab onto something that gave her control. I need to. That made her pause. Then she saw it. One page near the center. Bank transfers. Account numbers she didn't expect me to recognize. Her face shifted. Not anger. Panic. You don't understand what you're looking at, she said quickly. I do. Her eyes darted across the table again, searching for gaps, for something missing, something she could use. There's context, she added. You're taking pieces and Gavin Reed is engaged. I said, cutting through it cleanly. That stopped everything. Silence dropped hard into the room. She stared at me. You didn't know that? I asked. Her expression answered before she did. No, she said quietly. That was the first crack. Real, not controlled. You moved money, I continued. You covered for him. You built this with him. Her voice broke slightly now. It's not like that. Then explain it. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. For the first time since I had known her, Melissa Carter didn't have a version of the truth ready. Because this time, the story wasn't hers to control anymore. She looked smaller standing there. Not physically, structurally, like something that had been held together by confidence alone, and finally lost it. What are you going to do? She asked. I didn't answer immediately. I walked around the table slowly, stopping at the head where the messages were laid out. Then I looked at her. Finish it, I said. Her brow tightened. Finish what? This. I replied, gesturing to everything between us. Because right now it's incomplete. She swallowed. You're not in control of this anymore. I added. And that was when she understood. Not emotionally. Practically. Whatever she thought this was, an affair, a secret, a manageable situation, was already over. She just hadn't realized it yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was overwhelmed. Because I was working. By 6:10 a.m., I had already cross-referenced everything Noah sent with what I had. Names, dates, accounts, patterns. The structure was clearer now. Gavin wasn't improvising. He was building something designed to look legitimate long enough to extract value and disappear. Melissa had been part of that system, but she wasn't the only one inside it. At 7:02, I typed the name, Dr. Rachel Monroe. It didn't take long. Public profiles, hospital affiliations, awards, clean history. The kind of person whose life was built on precision and trust. Exactly the kind of person someone like Gavin would use as credibility. I found her number through a private directory. I stared at it for a few seconds. Then I called. She answered on the third ring. Rachel Monroe. Her voice was steady. Professional. My name is Ethan Carter, I said. You don't know me, but we need to talk about Gavin Reed. Silence. Not confusion. Recognition. I was wondering when this would happen, she said quietly. That told me everything. I have proof, I said. So do I. I didn't expect that. We agreed to meet that afternoon. Neutral location. A quiet cafe far enough from both our routines that neither of us would be interrupted. When I walked in, she was already there. No hesitation. No visible panic. Rachel Monroe wasn't what I expected. Not fragile. Not emotional. Composed. Controlled. The kind of person who processes reality quickly and adjusts. She didn't stand when I approached. Show me, she said. I sat down and slid the folder across the table. She didn't rush. She went through everything methodically. Photos, messages, financials. No visible reaction. Until she reached one of the messages. Her jaw tightened slightly. I haven't seen this one, she said. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out her own folder. Invoices, hotel charges, travel records that didn't match his explanations. Then she placed her phone on the table and pressed play. A voicemail. Gavin's voice. Casual. Careless. Just handle Rachel. I'll deal with the rest after the launch. She stopped it there. We sat in silence for a moment. Two separate lives. Same man. Same pattern. He told me we were building something together. She said finally, a joint investment after the project launch. I nodded once. He told her the same thing. Rachel didn't react emotionally. She processed. That means he never planned to stay, she said. No, I replied. He planned to leave. She leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing just enough to show the shift from discovery to strategy. How many investors? She asked. Enough, I said. And growing. She tapped the table once, thinking. Then she looked at me directly. We don't confront them privately, she said. I already knew that. They'll deny, delay, restructure, she continued. We lose leverage the moment they know what we know. I nodded. So we don't give them that moment, I said. For the first time, there was the slightest hint of something in her expression. Not anger. Alignment. They're planning a launch event, she said. 3 weeks. I know. Public. Yes. She held my gaze for a second longer. Then she closed the folder. Good, she said. That was the moment it changed. This wasn't exposure anymore. It was timing. And for the first time since all of this started, the outcome wasn't uncertain. The event was designed to impress before anyone even walked inside. Glass, steel, soft lighting. A skyline view that made everything feel more valuable than it was. Gavin understood presentation. That was the foundation of everything he built. Perception first, reality later. By 7:25 p.m., the room was full. Investors, partners, media, people who didn't just bring money. They brought credibility, the kind of crowd that turns a project into something real simply by being seen near it. I stood near the back with Rachel. She was composed, dressed in black, minimal, precise. No wasted movement, no visible tension. Timing matters, she said quietly, eyes on the stage. It always does, I replied. Across the room, I saw Melissa. She was working the space like nothing had changed. Confident, polished, introducing people, smiling in that controlled way she used when everything was under control. Then she saw me. It wasn't dramatic, just a pause, a fraction too long. Then her eyes shifted to Rachel beside me. That was when the control started slipping. On stage, Gavin stepped up to the microphone, relaxed, charismatic, exactly who everyone expected him to be. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, voice smooth, practiced. What we're launching isn't just a development. It's a redefinition of modern living in Denver. Applause came easily. People wanted to believe him. That was his advantage. Rachel glanced at me once. Now, she said, I moved first, not toward the stage, toward the control panel near the side. Event staff, distracted, overwhelmed, not expecting interference from someone who walked like he belonged there. I handed over a flash drive, updated presentation. I said calmly, no questions, because confidence replaces permission. Within seconds, the screen behind Gavin flickered. He didn't notice at first. Then it changed. Not architectural renderings, not polished visuals. Photos, clear, undeniable. Melissa and Gavin, different nights, different locations. Too close, too familiar. The room didn't react immediately. There's always a delay between seeing and understanding. Then the second slide, financial records, highlighted discrepancies, transfers, missing funds. The third, messages, short, direct. After the launch, we disappear. That was the moment. The sound in the room didn't explode. It collapsed. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Chairs shifted. Phones came out. Gavin turned slowly, looking at the screen behind him. For the first time, he didn't have control. What is this? He said into the mic, but the confidence was gone. Melissa didn't move. She was frozen in place, watching her own reality get rewritten in front of everyone who mattered. Rachel stepped forward, her voice cutting clean through the silence. This, she said, is fraud. No shouting, no chaos, just precision. That's what made it irreversible. Near the entrance, 2 men moved in, not security. Too focused, too direct, federal. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Gavin Reed, one of them said, calm, controlled, we need you to come with us. The room fractured after that. Investors pulling away. Conversations turning sharp. Phones dialing faster. Everything Gavin built, reputation, trust, illusion, collapsed in real time, not with noise, but with distance. People stepping back. Melissa tried to move then. Toward him. Toward something. It didn't matter. There was nowhere left to go. Rachel didn't look at Gavin again. She looked at Melissa. For 1 second. That was enough. I'm done, she said. Simple. Final. I didn't stay to watch the rest. I had already seen how it ended. Outside, the night air felt colder, cleaner. Behind me, through the glass, I could see the reflection of everything breaking apart. Not violently. Precisely. Exactly where it was weakest. The divorce was finalized in 11 minutes. That's how long it took to formally end 12 years. No raised voices. No last-minute arguments. Melissa didn't fight it. She couldn't. Between the financial records, the documented transfers, and everything tied to Gavin's collapse, there was nothing left to negotiate. Only terms to accept. She sat across from me in the courtroom, quieter than I had ever seen her. Not broken, not emotional, just reduced. Like someone who finally understood the full cost of every decision, all at once. When the judge signed off, it was done. Clean, irreversible. I walked out without looking back. Not because I was angry, because there was nothing left behind me that belonged to my future. The financial recovery took longer. Lawyers, audits, paper trails that had to be reconstructed piece by piece. Some of the money was already gone, moved, layered, buried inside accounts Gavin thought would never be examined closely. He was wrong. Systems fail when people assume no one will inspect them thoroughly. I recovered most of it, not everything, but enough. Enough to close the loss without carrying it forward. Months passed. Quiet ones. No chaos. No noise. I moved into a smaller place. Simpler. Functional. The kind of space where everything had a purpose and nothing existed just for appearance. Work became different. Not just projects. Focus. I took on something I normally would have ignored. A community pedestrian bridge on the edge of the city. Smaller budget. Less recognition. The kind of project younger engineers chase to prove something. I didn't take it for that. I took it because it mattered. Because for the first time in a long time, I wanted to build something without distraction. No politics. No performance. Just structure. Rachel and I stayed in contact. Not often. Not unnecessarily. But consistently. There was no attempt to turn it into something else. No blurred lines. No replacement for what had been lost. Just clarity. Mutual understanding. Two people who had seen the same system from different sides and chosen not to repeat it. One evening, months later, we stood near the finished bridge. Concrete set, steel locked in place. Clean lines stretching across water that moved quietly beneath it. "It holds," she said, looking at the structure. "It does," I replied. She nodded once. No more needed to be said. Melissa disappeared from my life completely. No messages. No attempts to reconnect. I heard fragments through others. Lost contracts. Reputation gone. Opportunities that stopped appearing. Not dramatic. Just absence. The kind that follows exposure. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't need to, because none of this was about revenge. It was about correction. I stood there a little longer after Rachel left, hands in my pockets, looking at the bridge. Every structure has limits, load thresholds, stress points. Failure isn't random. It's predictable, if you're willing to look closely enough. Melissa didn't destroy my life. She revealed where it had been built on assumptions instead of inspection. And once I saw that, I did what I've always done. I studied it. I understood it. And I built something stronger in its place.